Hello, and welcome to Knights of the Night Actual Play Podcast. This 5th edition D&D adventure, The Heretic, was written and run by your DM, Scott. And now, please enjoy episode 482, titled, Go, I've Got This. Actual play begins immediately.
Hello, my name is Scott, and I will be your DM tonight for this 5e adventure, The Heretic. With me tonight, starting on the right, is...
I'm Tom, and I'm playing Alder Rusha, a human male cleric of Amira and a newly skill-seeking rogue.
Hi, I'm Mike, playing Marduk, a male half-orc fighter, graduate of the Academy, and new Fist of Amira.
Hello, folks. I am Jim, playing Grodor. He is a hobgoblin warlock and one of the mighty Fists of Amira. He's always searching for truth, knowledge, and power.
I'm John. I'm playing Melody, a female human cleric, third of the Exemplar family Harmony, an ex-ambassador turned political operative, in the form of a Fist of Amira.
I'm Thomas. I'll be playing Gabrielle de Angelis. She's a female human paladin and a holy Fist of Amira, on a mission to the Hollowlands.
Excellent. Where we left off last week, our intrepid Fists of Amira were delving into the mystery of the slain goats and the slain young man Galvin Strom. The Fists broke into two groups, one to investigate Galvin, went to his homestead and talked to his mother, and eventually ended up at the home of a school teacher in town by the name of Morgan, interviewed her as well, and got into some deep details of a love triangle between Morgan, the recently deceased Galvin, and the father and owner of the farm, Ulrich Sundaro. The other group went and spoke with the Sundaros, spoke with the dad and with the two sons, one a teenager and one a adolescent. Eventually the groups linked up, and as midnight struck, they were putting themselves in position to see if they could set an ambush for whatever is causing the deaths at the farmstead. As a last-minute idea, a couple of the group members went to visit the local exemplar, Guy Ledstrom, who was able to give them a cold iron mace and said he would meet them a little later in the evening to give them another set of eyes for their ambush. And that's when we left things off. I believe Gabrielle, Mel, and Alder were returning from speaking with Guy Ledstrom and had the mace and was joining the group again at the farmstead to set the ambush. So if you guys want to take a moment to look at the map of Copshire, specifically the upper right-hand corner, which would be the southeastern section of town.
Well, I think while we were away talking to Guy, the others that were still on that farmstead were talking about setting up some potential traps.
That would have been Marduk, and Grodor were still back at the farmstead along with Brother Byron. I think Marduk, you went and got the horses and the cart from behind the inn that you were staying at tonight, or were going to stay at before you decided to set this trap.
Yes, that will be what I do. Also, if Grodor was interested in rigging up one or two of crossbows, I will contribute my crossbow for his purpose.
Okay. And you also have the teenage son, Donald, who is eager to help in any way he possibly can.
What's higher, the house or the barn?
The house is a one-story home. The barn has a little bit larger of a roof. It probably is maybe 15 feet.
I'm guessing they usually have a loft, so they're usually a little bit higher.
Yeah, exactly. So you've got a little bit of more height on the barn than on the home itself.
I'm wondering if we should have somebody on the roof with some crossbows. Then again, sitting on the roof in the pouring rain would be no fun.
Clouds in the rain have obscured the maiden and her sisters, which are the moons that normally shine at night.
Rain doesn't interfere with dark vision.
The overcast wouldn't, unless it was like fog, I would say would be obscuring for dark vision.
Okay.
But I'd also say that if it's a pretty good downpour, that would also obscure dark vision as well, or at least make
Okay.
it a little more difficult to see in, yeah.
After scoping out the place, I'm going to let everybody know where the good places that you can have cover from, that you want to fire from within the barn. Point those out.
Okay.
When the time comes, I will use Amira's light with the spear and hopefully be like a focal point for any potential enemy. So,
Okay.
I'm hoping I'm guessing he's at the end, maybe looking out through an opening or a window or something, or they throw the hay in or something, trying to keep an eye on what's coming from the left.
So you're inside the barn looking out a window?
Yeah.
I'm going to stand on the other side of the door along with Marduk. Okay, this is an important question. Are we waiting for the creature to close in, or are we making our guard obvious? Because if me and Marduk are standing in front of the door, that's more obvious than everyone else is going for.
I was going to be kind of bold and obvious with the purpose of drawing any initial intention.
Okay.
Donald wants to know where you like him to be stationed. Do we think it's coming from a certain direction, or do we...
Well, it was my suggestion that Donald be up in the loft with a few crossbows. That would put him out of the way of being attacked, potentially.
Yeah.
Okay.
And one of the things I was also trying to implore to him is that this thing seems like if you get into close quarters with it, it could beat you up in a heartbeat. So shooting at it from far away is the smart thing to do. Is what I plan on doing.
He'll situate himself on the western edge of the barn loft, above the barn, looking out over the courtyard, as we call it now, the goat pen, with a crossbow.
Gabrielle's going to go inside and wait at the top of... I don't know. Are there stairs to access the loft?
There's ladders on either side of the long edges of the building.
Okay, then within the sight of one of the ladders in particular, hidden from view.
Is anyone outside of the barn with the exception of Marduk?
Melody's going to be outside as well.
Huddled
Yeah.
against the side of the barn?
Yes.
There's also a tree there that you could kind of get some shelter underneath a little bit to your south.
I do want eyes on outside, so I plan on being out in the rain.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Alder, I am off to slightly the west. There's two trees, and I'm hiding.
Yes, I saw that.
Kind of in between the house and the barn, but underneath a tree. And I am using stealth if necessary to hide.
Go ahead and make a stealth check, please.
I rolled an 11.
Excellent. And are you paying attention to any certain direction, Alder?
Yes, I am looking towards the house in particular, but also the road that is next to it, to the east of the house.
If we have time to set up, should any setup stealth rolls be done with advantage, or...
I was thinking about that, actually, and I think that's a good point. A couple of notes, actually, from last week and then something from tonight. Go ahead and make another roll, Alder, for your stealth, since you're attempting to make a stealth check in darkness, in rain, under a tree.
Yeah, I rolled a 20.
Last week, I went to give inspiration Marduk when you slammed your staff down and made it glow, and
Right.
Morgan crumbled. I think that was definitely a moment worthy of inspiration. So
I
go
think
ahead
I
and
already
give yourself
had
one.
inspiration, didn't I?
You can have up to 3.
Oh, right, great.
Get the house roll.
I have 2 then.
Alder, for your conversation with Owen and the bookmark idea, I thought that was a really good scene that really spoke a lot to your character's personality and background. So I wanted to give you a point of inspiration for that.
All right. So I have 2 as well.
Okay. Marduk, I'm assuming you are not trying to be stealthy in the middle of the goat pen?
With the light glowing, I wanted to be kind of a beacon or to be the focus of attention.
Okay.
To give everyone else that advantage or to do whatever they were doing.
Just don't be a punching bag out there.
I would say, Melody, that you need to make a stealth roll because you're out of the barn as well. The only other one that I know of that's out of the barn at this point. So can you make a stealth roll with advantage, please?
I got a 14 total.
Okay, great. The rain continues to pour down. Minutes start to seem like an hour, because as you're getting closer to the mountains and traveling more to the east, you're seeing a situation where at night now, with this cold front kind of coming in, it's maybe 60 degrees, whereas back in Temerity, even an evening with some rain like this might be more along the lines of 68 or 70 degrees. So it's chilly sitting in the rain, and with it pouring down, it's quite uncomfortable. And after about a half hour or so, as you get yourself situated, it's maybe around 12:30. And then around 1 o'clock in the morning, Marduk and Alder, I think that's it, are the two that spot right off the bat. You see a form, a relatively large form, coming up the walkway from the south way, the main street. It's making its way from the south way up the walkway past the house and towards the barn.
When you say large, are you saying like as large as a horse? Or large as
I'm saying humanoid, bipedal, maybe 6.5 foot tall, lots of garments on, like cloaks and stuff to maybe guard against the weather.
Of course.
Alder, go ahead and make a perception check real quick.
I rolled a natural 20. Or 22.
That's excellent. Unfortunately, because it's an obscured situation with the rain and the darkness,
You want a disadvantage.
I needed a disadvantage even with that beautiful 20.
Okay, how about a 16 then?
Still very impressive. Marduk, I'm not going to give you that roll for a reason that will become very obvious in a second. It's because you realize by the way he's walking and the way he's carrying himself that it is the form of Guy Ledstrom coming up the pathway. It's hard to tell with him bundled up against the weather as he is, but you saw him walking within his own home, and you kind of just picked up his cadence of his walk and the slump of his shoulders and things like that, the rigidness of his posture, whatever. You are able to ascertain that that's who that is coming up the pathway. He's not trying to hide, so Marduk,
Right.
You do see someone coming up the pathway, an individual tightly bundled against the weather.
I glance over at Marduk. How is he responding? Is he still hunkered down like he's getting ready to attack, or is it clear that he recognizes it's someone as well?
I don't recognize this, and I'm expecting
All right.
danger, so...
Oh, yeah, I absolutely step out from underneath the tree and make myself also seen as I hail him as he's coming down the driveway. Holding out a hand towards Marduk, kind of in the don't attack motion. Hail, Exemplar Ledstrom. Thank you for joining us.
He stops at you because you were hidden and he did not see you. And then you see his form kind of move up and down a bit as he's chuckling to himself. He puts his hand up. Hail, this weather. And he starts making his way towards you. He sees Marduk, but doesn't recognize him, so he heads to the person that he has met before. He shakes his head because some of the rain's getting in his eyes, even with the protection that he has on. He's like, a night like this is meant for skullduggery, for sure.
For sure. This is my friend Marduk. And while I'm saying this, I'm glancing down at the ground in his footsteps.
Mm-hmm.
Please tell me they're not hoofs.
You see, no, I'm kidding. I was going to totally freak you out. No, you see damp, wet, thick, large footprints. After you make the introduction, he turns towards where Marduk is standing, maybe 10 feet away, 15 feet away, raises a hand and says, "Greetings, Marduk. It's a pleasure to meet you.
I salute.
I am on my watch for the night. As you know, I am part of the Soul Watch for Hampshire, and I have the midnight shift. Before I came out, though, I realized that I had some cold steel crossbow bolts that I had forgotten about when you first visited. So, saying I was going to come by and visit anyways, I thought I would drop these off and see that you might be able to use them, see if you could have some value in them against whatever it is you're hoping to find."
I absolutely believe those would be useful. Thank you very much.
And with that, he pulls out a quiver of some 20 bolts and hands them to you. "How goes the watch?"
Well, you were the first one we saw that got our attention, I'd say, with a chuckle. But so far, Nothing but rain has been coming into the area. I start walking towards the barn, signal to Gabrielle with a wave as I hold out the bolts and point up towards the loft as in, we want to disperse these.
She grabs the quiver and heads up to distribute between Grodor and... Yeah,
Make sure the kid gets some.
Donald's the only one who's actually going to be using a crossbow, am I wrong?
Brother Byron, who's also in the loft with you, has the ability to use a crossbow as well. So he would like maybe 5.
No
I
problem.
believe the crossbow we gave him, I have no problem with that being mine, because it has to come from somewhere. So I think Melody's down a crossbow at this point.
Oh, I think you had actually got extra crossbows as part of your supplies when you got yourself outfitted way back in Temerity. Okay, so we have Donald getting 5, Brother Byron getting 5, Melody, and does anyone else need 5? Because there's 5 left over.
I can take them.
Just in case?
Just in case.
Okay, Grodor gets the last 5, so please mark those on your character sheet so you know that you have them. So, Exemplar Ledstrom makes some small talk with you for a while in the rain, says it looks like you've got this under control, this area being so heavily guarded. If the creature has any intelligence, it might try to strike elsewhere tonight. So I'm going to go about my rounds, do my rounds as normal, and I'll just try to keep an eye and an ear out in case I hear of any trouble.
I'm going to pass word down to Marduk that this guy might want to check on Morgan. I don't know how much we can trust this guy, but we're all here, so I'd like to send someone down there.
Okay.
She's a person of interest and might be in danger.
Well, it seems like you've done a lot of investigating and spent time researching the situation and have made some headway, so I'll be happy to take a walk down to Ms. Luster's abode and make sure that she's all right this evening.
Do you have a bell or something to ring out?
He does, actually. They do have bells that they carry with them to ring out, to gather the other soul watch from their sleep if need be, if anything major happens, which in this town is never, except for what they're experiencing right now.
Okay.
I ask to see the bell for just a moment, and I ring it very gently, not to make a lot of noise.
Okay.
So we know what it's on.
Yeah, he definitely shows it to you.
And the reason I'm doing that is I can do a spell that'll make the same noise in case we're the ones that need help. And I inform him that we can make that bell noise to let him know if something's gone down here. And
He
hand
smiles.
it back to him.
The wonders of thaumaturgy.
Indeed.
After a short while,
Hold up.
it's pretty miserable, so I'm sure he wants to find a tree to stand underneath or find some shelter underneath an awning somewhere. So he bids you farewell.
Could I
And-
roll the insight for when we mentioned Miss Morgan? See if his face gave anything away. I'm pretty
Sure.
sure we already cleared this guy or something, but...
Oh,
Natural 20. For a
You
total
slept
of
with her.
22. We're rolling hot tonight.
2 20s, your first couple of rolls. You came out to talk to him,
Yeah.
Gabrielle?
He was the one who
Just making
gave
sure.
me his mace, which
Right.
I am sworn to return.
Yes. Did you give that to anyone, by the way?
I'm holding it because I think the only person who'd be better at wielding it is Marduk, and Marduk has a great shining spear, so instead I was going to make use of it. Although I might give it to Donald if it comes down to it.
Your natural 20, what you see is a very quick, almost a micro facial tick that a frown upon his lips, at the corners of his lips, ever so quickly before it's replaced with his patented smile and gregarious attitude.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he has to listen to rumor, and he's an exemplar of chastity. I don't think that's beyond his character to be displeased to hear about her. But I'll keep that in the back of my mind, I guess.
He definitely knows more than the pillar, though, if he's upset by it.
Well, the pillar knows that it's a rumor, and the exemplar is an exemplar of chastity in particular, so if there is a rumor, he might be displeased to hear about her name simply for that reason.
Yeah, there was a rumor that Ms. Luster and the farmer Ulrich.
Spending time together at night.
Yes. It doesn't raise any huge alarm bells that he might frown upon that.
before we head back to our watch, now that is lodged and everyone's aware.
Okay, and unfortunately everyone that's hiding needs to hide again because they came out, with the exception of Melody. Melody, you did not actually come out from your place.
No, I passed word down, and this conversation happened after he had left, I imagine, with Gabrielle.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's just Alder. You need to re-roll your stealth with advantage.
Oh. And I, yuck, rolled a 12.
All right. Everyone gets into their positions. Another half hour of this downpour continues, mixed in with some lightning and some thunder, and it's just a terribly uncomfortable evening to be out and about. Even those of you who are in the goat pen, in the barn, you're getting dripped on because the roof is not the best condition. Wind is blowing through. It's absolutely miserable. I would like Alder, Marduk, Brodor, and Mel to all make perception checks with disadvantage.
I got a natural 1 there. A 5.
And a 23 for the other roll.
I rolled a 7.
So the highest roll was Brodor in the barn, looking out the window, being rained upon, and the rain's coming sideways across your face, Grodor, but what you think you saw, a form move across the field, but you didn't see them moving across the field. You only caught them right at the tail end of their movement, which you assume was across the field, going to the east into the woodlands that are next to the farm. Everyone else was either looking in a different direction at the moment or was blocked by the rain and the mist and just the overall bad weather conditions.
So I do say to who can hear me, I just saw something move out there. I think it was moving toward the woods. There was something. I could have been a deer for all I know. I don't know.
You think it looked like maybe a halfling or a smaller sized human? It was definitely smaller in stature.
Yeah. So I'll say that it
what's
was.
his name?
Owen.
Thank you.
The boy Owen or Merrick the...
It was about Merrick sized.
Okay, I am stepping out from under the tree, heading slightly north, which is in the direction that we were told this creature was. And I am waving to Marduk as I'm walking that direction with my right hand as if he should go a little bit more east with me to the north.
So I'll move and be a beacon that will draw the attention, giving others hopefully advantage.
Yes, in my movement I'm attempting to be stealthy.
Okay. I'd like Alder to make a stealth check with advantage and a perception check with disadvantage. Marduk, perception check with disadvantage as you're both looking in the area that Grodor just pointed out.
Marduk has some night vision.
He does.
I did, but it's raining.
It's raining and kind of foggy a little bit too.
Marduk has a 9.
I rolled a 23 with stealth and a 12 with perception.
Alder, with your 12, you think that you see the faintest, almost like a candle light in the woods about 5 foot, 10 foot in, moving away from you.
A candle.
Yeah, that's the brightness of it. It's like as if a candle is putting off the smallest bit of light that you can imagine in the woods, and it's moving away from you relatively quickly.
I pursue.
Are you going to increase your pace and lose your stealth, or continue your stealth and try to remain hidden?
I'm going to try to keep gaining on this individual, so I am dropping the stealth.
Do you say anything to anyone at all?
Yes, I call out at the individual. I'm going to assume it's Owen and say his name. Owen! I say it in a loud whisper.
Right.
I don't know why I'm whispering, but I'm saying it in a loud whisper.
Okay. So everyone else hears Alder call out Owen in a loud whisper and move off into the woods. Marduk, what are you doing?
I'll keep pace with Alder, but I didn't see anything, so I'm just waiting to get a target. But I'm going to keep pace with Alder and be ready to back him up. I'm not going to crowd Alder.
Right.
I'm going to keep within like 30 feet of Alder. Or
Alder, Go ahead and make a perception check as you move into the woods.
While this is going on, I'm asking Donald to come over to the upper loft window
And he's
area.
like whispering, "What's going on?"
I'm telling him there's movement in the trees out here. I want you to cover us. Come over here, and I'm heading down to the ground floor to head out.
Okay, so you go down the ladder.
And I'm getting ready.
Moves over. What did you roll, Alder, for your
I
perception
rolled a
check?
10.
It's so tough to see in rain, in forest with undergrowth, in darkness, and everything else. You have lost sight of the candle.
Does my light of the spear help illuminate, or does that cause more trouble for him?
The light from the spear does help illuminate. You feel like you'd be able to see things close by, Alder,
Okay.
because of the light shining from Marduk's spear.
I'm moving about 15 feet into the woods, slightly northeast, and I'm going back into stealth mode because I have no idea where this individual just went. I'm again trying to spot someone. If you want me to roll a perception roll again,
You could go ahead and make a perception check if you would like, yes.
I am
With
going to
disadvantage.
spend an inspiration so that I just have a normal roll. And I roll a 6.
The darkness, the rain, all the elements, the mist, especially clouding around, the mist hanging onto the trees and the trunks, and it's very difficult to see even with Marduk's light.
I'm making my way to the edge of the woods, just keeping an eye on their back, and at the same time an eye on the barn, just as a go-between.
Okay, go ahead and make a perception check just for the hell of it, with disadvantage.
Much like Alder is laying low and becoming part of the shadows again, I am going to be the hound that tries to flush the prey, so I'm going to not worry about stealth.
So Grodor got an 8.
So right now, Grodor, you don't see anything. Marduk, you could move yourself deeper into the woods as you walk through the twisted tree roots and...
Maybe even stomping, like I'm
Right.
not worrying about stealth.
And Mel, are you staying hidden in the tree?
Yeah, I'm keeping an eye out because if this is a distraction, it's really got them.
Yeah.
So I'm going to stick where I'm at.
Good distraction.
The crossbow has been under my oiled cloak because of the rain, and that would really mess with the strings. So that's definitely come out at this point.
Okay.
And I'm trying to keep eyes elsewhere because while they're doing a thing, I'm going to try to make sure we're not getting ambushed.
Right. So maybe you're looking to the west at the south way and at the path leading up to the barn. That would seem to be a good thing to do. Gabrielle, you are at the window now with Donald. He's frustrated. I can't see a damn thing. What are they doing? What do they see? Did someone call my brother's name?
I think they're seeing a lot out there, but I also think every night the real disturbance has been here. We're more likely to see anything than they are.
Go ahead and make a persuasion check.
She's utterly relaxed as she explains this,
Mm-hmm.
and rolls only an 11.
Yeah, he's getting antsy. You could sense in him that staying here and guarding this window, it's very difficult for him at this point. And you feel like he's ready to bolt. He hasn't done it yet, but you feel like he's not long for this position unless you can convince him otherwise on your next opportunity.
Gotcha.
Which takes us back to Alder. You went into stealth mode. You feel like you're very well hidden. Go ahead and make a perception check with disadvantage again.
I'm not moving. I'm
Okay.
more listening than looking. I don't know if that would still be a disadvantage, but
It would only because of the rainfall. If it wasn't for the rainfall hitting the leaves and hitting the trees and striking the ground, that's definitely muffling the noises of maybe like a footfall. So I'm thinking it should still be disadvantage, unfortunately. I hate to keep throwing it at you guys, but it's a really tough situation to deal with.
so I rolled a 9.
You hear nothing but the rain. You don't see anything either, but you're very certain that you're very well hidden. Marduk, you're crashing through the woods, making a lot of noise, shining your light, trying to be distracting. Go ahead and make a perception check just to see if you spot something, because you're still looking, right?
Since I'm having a hard time looking through the woods trying to track this person, I start looking at the ground and see if I see any signs of tracks or recent passage.
Oh, okay. So what we'll do then is make a survival roll. Since you have light, I'm going to make it without disadvantage.
Then I rolled a 16.
Okay. What you see is you see small, muddy footprints in what is a small pathway. There's several small paths winding through this copse
Sure.
of trees. You can see footprints leading to the east down a path. They are smaller in size, like maybe a halfling or a small boy.
So they're not cloven, and
They're not
they are
cloven.
barefoot.
They are boots.
Boots. Okay, small boots. Small
Yes.
child size or halfling size boots. Okay.
Right. Maybe even a female.
Okay. If I detect the path,
Yes.
I'll whistle the little sign that usually means I'm onto something, and I will follow the tracks.
Okay, they are fairly simple to trace. You rolled a 16. So it looks to you as if they're wider apart than what you would assume for the size of the foot.
So they're running.
So it looks like they're running or moving at speed.
Right.
For the last 3 or 4 turns that you guys have been looking and investigating, at least when it was here at this location, it was moving at speed. Rodor, you get the whistle from Marduk saying he's on something, he found something. You've heard this before.
Turn around to the window, look up
Yeah.
at Donald and say, stay there. Then I'm moving to take a flank position behind Marduk.
Okay, stay there to Donald is an intimidation check, so go ahead and make a roll, please. You got a 17.
Right.
Okay, so you say it to him fiercely and effectively, and you fall in behind Marduk. Gabrielle and Mel, you both have heard that whistle before in the past. He's onto something. Are you reacting to it? Are you following it? Or are you staying behind?
If I don't hear the bell, then it's not an emergency yet.
Right. I don't think the situation's changed any. It could just be a very good distraction.
Okay, that takes us back to Alder. You heard the whistle as well, Alder. You're very stealthily concealed right now, very effectively concealed. And you hear the whistle that he seems to have found something. What do?
I keep the distance that I have from him as far as the north-south, but I head into the woods following him, but off to the side. And it's easy to do because he's got a light.
Yeah.
Right.
I actually
Yeah.
thought of something.
Go ahead.
I'm going to ready an action for if I hear the bell to dash in one direction or the other. And I tell Donald, get ready to move if we need to.
If I'm not mistaken, you're both in the loft next to the window and also next to a ladder.
I was at the bottom of the ladder.
So he is at the top looking out the window. You are looking out a window as well, but on the ground floor.
Right. But if it's a distraction, you, I, and Mel are the last line between what we're actually supposed to be doing and whatever it is they think they found.
Okay. Marduk, what do? You're following the path, correct?
I'm going to follow the path a little ways, but if I don't get either a clear sign in either a sight here or the trail is still hot, because I'm more conscious now that I'm afraid that I'm being led away. If our primary duty was the barn, then unless I have a hot fix on a target, I'm not going to full-blown pursue it.
Okay. Give me a survival check to follow the tracks.
Okay, at disadvantage?
No. You have light. You can see very well the pathway and the footfalls.
I rolled a 16.
Okay. Yes. The path continues to the east, bending a little bit to the south. Not a lot, just a bit. And you see the running footfalls of, again, a smallish type boot. Now make a perception check, please. No
Normal.
disadvantage on this one.
I rolled a 14.
Okay. About another 50 foot of woods, and then you see it break up into a clearing. You can see that there is a couple of what look to be dilapidated stone structures, almost like homes that were really, really old and kind of falling apart in
Okay. Like old cottages?
Yeah, something along those lines. So you see a clearing very easily, and that's all you can see with that particular roll. The situation did change. There's a clearing up ahead that you can see very distinctly. Something is running to that clearing, but you can't see anyone yet.
Right, but do I see their path through the grass or the meadow, or is it too short?
You see there's a pathway leading in that direction, and you can see the running steps of a smaller person.
I whistle again to signify that I'm still onto something, and then I search forward.
Okay. And that takes us to Grodor. You move deeper into the woods as well?
Yeah, like I said, I'm flanking him, giving myself space between the both of us, because if something jumps him, I don't want it to jump me as well. I'm probably on the other side of where Alder is.
Yeah. Go ahead and make a perception check, please, without disadvantage.
I rolled a 14.
You roll the same thing Marduk did, which means you see the same thing with your night vision that he sees, your dark vision, excuse me. You see a clearing up ahead. You are not on a path. You're kind of climbing your way through some undergrowth and through some difficult terrain. Mel, Gabrielle, and Brother Byron as well. You hear a second whistle that he's definitely onto something, but you don't know again.
Yeah, there's
awful
no
convenient
context.
that they're getting pulled away, but they do seem to be onto something at the same time. What do you guys do? Hold the fort?
That's enough for me. Me and Donald are right out the door on the second whistle. But Mel can make her own decision because Gabrielle does not consult.
And Mel, you're staying put?
Yeah, she sighs and just leans against the tree and waits here. Because
Okay.
somebody needs to.
Brother Byron is going to move towards the woods. He makes eye contact with you, Mel. He's standing just outside the woods, south of where Donald and Gabrielle just disappeared into the undergrowth. He shrugs his shoulders and kind of like hunkers down right there, kind of like half in between, where he wants to go into the woods, but he doesn't want to leave you completely alone at the same time.
I'll wave
So-
a dismissive, non-crossbowed hand and be like, whatever, go for it.
He shakes his head no and hold tight, just for this turn at least, which leads us back to Alder. Alder, you hear that second whistle. His light doesn't shine quite enough to see the clearing for you.
I'm trying to get an angle, so I'm staying off to the side of Marduk. I am casting a spell and touching my closed eyes and then opening them. And then I'm moving slightly northeast and trying to spot what's going on here. The spell I cast was Guidance, which is something in which I'm allowed to add a die 4 to my skill roll.
Okay.
So, I am going to attempt to spot an individual, which means
Are you moving as well? Like fully?
just a bit, half movement.
Okay.
I
so
mean, am I still in the woods?
you're
I'm on
still in
the-
the woods. They go for about another 60 feet or so. So if you double moved, you would be out of the woods. If you single move and do a spell, you would be almost out of the woods.
Right, I am single moving.
Okay, go ahead and make a perception check.
I'm assuming disadvantage?
Yeah, unfortunately, still. I really want to
Okay.
stop saying that.
That's fine. Of course, I rolled a 21, but a 7 as well. And then an additional 3, so a total of 10.
10 is enough to see the outlines of a couple of buildings. Some more upright than others, some just the foundation of the building, but no sign of those footsteps and that person went.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That takes us to our friend Marduk.
So I see a small, shadowy, I don't see details, but I do see the path that they cut through the grass and they're heading towards those low buildings.
Yeah, it certainly looks that way.
As I'm running, is there any light source in the buildings?
Are you moving to the clearing? Is that what you're doing?
Yes.
You are coming in at the top of the map. You could see the dilapidated buildings. You could see a well in the middle of the clearing, like an old well that's kind of crumbled. You can see trees as some of the forest and woods encroach upon the clearing. You can follow the footsteps, Marduk, and they run straight through this clearing, like they continue on in the distance. But unless you want to dash, you would stop right around where you're at right now.
All right, then I'm not going to double move yet. I'm not going to run completely into a death circle. I'm exposed enough as it is, but I don't want to be too foolish. So I've moved up, and I will hold the spear to kind of examine, and I will ready in action to, if someone comes out, I'm going to try to move up to him.
Okay. And then Grodor?
I'm just pacing Marduk. I'm probably going to be heading toward this clearing area here.
Okay. And that takes us to Gabrielle, who is in a path with Donald running, double moving through the slick rain and such. So I might give you a roll on that if you continue to do that after one turn. But what are you doing, Gabrielle?
I take the second whistle to mean that they found something significant.
Right.
So I figured we are trying to catch up as soon as we can. What would we be rolling? Because I would want to know that before I make another double move.
I think acrobatics is apropos here, but I also think that athletics is kind of important too, because running through mud, I can see that being athletic, being quick on your feet and being athletic can apply there, as well as the slipperiness and the whatnot of acrobatics. So either one would work.
Okay, I'm going to use athletics and stir the boy on. Ooh, 21.
You do a fantastic job of double moving through the woods.
And I shout encouraging words to Donald. Donald, hurry!
Donald rolls a 17 and he has a +2, so he is a 19 on his roll. So he's like, I am. Lead the way. And he's 2 strides behind you. But you guys are moving amazingly quickly through a rain-soaked, muddy, there's roots of trees, there's bushes that are kind of overhanging the path. It's quite the daunting task, but you both did an amazing job of dashing through the woods, making your way closer to the clearing, although you're double moved before you would reach where everyone else is standing. That takes us to the Mel. Everyone has disappeared into the woods, except for you and Brother Byron, who are faithfully manning the post.
I have no reason to have changed my mind, unfortunately, despite this whole map existing. And
Right, yeah, the metagaming sense that there might be something happening here doesn't mean that something still can't happen at the barn, though.
I would very much want this to be a conversation between me and Brother Byron. Did you see anything?
I didn't see anything. I heard whistling. I heard Marduk whistling twice. So I'm sure they found something, but part of me says they could just be led away and that both attacks happened here. I'm hesitant to leave you alone or to abandon this particular post, even though it seems like they found something.
I have weapons enough to hold up in the homestead if I need to retreat. I feel like I can't just ditch the town.
I feel like you should be the one to go because I have a bit more physical combat training than you do. If it comes to blows with weapons, at a distance, I think we're about equal. Maybe you have the slight advantage, but if it's melee combat, I'm going to be able to hold up until you guys return better than you would be able to. So I think you should go. He said, I can ring the bell. He has thaumaturgy.
Yeah, I think we get a bell between us. I make a bell sound, he makes a bell sound.
Yeah.
We do a secret handshake.
He's in on that. Go. I've got this.
Okay. And I'm gonna sprint for it.
Ring the bell if there's trouble.
Yep.
Okay, so you would double move into the woods?
Yeah. And for as many turns as it takes for me to get there.
Alder, you are up, sir.
I move towards the closest building. I'm hiding behind it, but I'm trying to get in a situation where I can see more past it into it, but I'm also attempting to remain somewhat stealthful. So okay, I'm only moving a short distance. And then I am making the crow noise that I made when we were fighting in the Red Hats to tell my 2 friends that something's up. I'm not ringing the bell because there's nothing definitive yet, but this was always a noise that I made in the city for my friends when I thought trouble was coming.
So go ahead and make a stealth check with advantage.
I rolled a 23.
You are very well hidden in the darkness around the side of that house. You blend in with it quite well.
And so are they, because I can never see them.
Yes, and now you can go ahead and make a perception check. Again, this one, I'm going to stop the disadvantage at this point. You're a bit closer to where you need to be.
I rolled a 19.
Okay. You see 3 structures. You see the foundations of a crumbled building just a few feet off the ground. You're almost direct south. Beyond that, you see a large stone structure. Looks like it might have been some type of villa or nice estate house that is crumbled into disrepair. And then to the slight west of that, directly south of the well, you see light glowing from the inside of a broken, crumbled structure. So the walls are probably 3 or 4 foot high, and you see what looks to be a reddish glow emanating from that building. It looks very daunting and unnatural.
Right. So that's what I was going to ask. When you're saying red glow, you're not talking the flickering of flames.
That would be more orange. This is more red, a constant red glow.
Right. It's magic. This is magic.
Yes, that would be your guess.
Alder's thinking.
Yes, and that would be a very good guess. Okay, that is the end of your turn, Marduk.
So, am I far enough in to see the glowing light as well?
Not quite. You can go ahead and make a perception check. I'm going to say that Alder giving the crow sound, which is a noise you know he makes when he sees something.
Yep.
And you see where he's looking, because at the distance your light and your dark vision as well.
Sure.
Illuminate him, even though he's hidden against the wall. You see him, and you see where he's looking.
Okay.
But when you see it, you see him staring past the well towards that far house. So I'm going to let you make a perception check with no disadvantage at this point.
Marduk rolls a 15.
Okay, that's great. You see the red glow. There's a lot of mist around that house, just clinging around the stones. As the red light kind of seeps into it, you notice the discoloration. And you think with your dark vision, it's a ways away from you, so it doesn't really apply exactly, but you definitely have better sight than he does at night. And I'm going to say that you think you see the outline of maybe a form or two within the collapsed structure, but nothing that you can make out at this distance, way too far.
Okay. I will move my 30 feet and take a little cover, like against that wall, and not as loud before, but I will do a little 3 to indicate that maybe there's more than one, that I'm counting 2 to 3 possibles.
Right. I'm going to say that due to the rain and the thunder, that both Alder and Grodor can hear that.
Okay.
Anyone else is too far off at this point to hear that low, because I'm assuming you're doing it low enough that you're hoping not to alert your presence at this point.
Right. Yeah, it's not an ear piercing for everyone to hear. It's, hey, over there.
Right.
You know, just something to draw the attention, even though with all the rain and lightning stuff going on, too. I understand that that's weird. Yeah, so I've moved in there, and I will also douse the light of Amira.
Okay. And that takes us to Grodor.
I'm assuming I can't move as fast through the woods as they can in the clearing.
The trees are spaced in that part of the clearing relatively far apart from each other. There is some undergrowth. You're behind one house that's completely collapsed and one house where it's still somewhat standing, but the roof is completely caved in on it. And what are you doing?
Well, everybody else is making bird calls, so I make my bird call.
All right.
Just so they know where I am.
Right. That makes sense. It's like a reply. And I'm assuming it's pretty low. You're not trying to reach people back at the farm. Okay. That takes us to Gabrielle and Donald.
It's my last turn to double move if I succeed anyway. And then I rolled a 19 for athletics.
All right.
Puffing it. Ooh!
Donald rolls a 17 again, plus 2 for his dexterity bonus, gets him a 19. which is the same as yours, and you both appear on the edge, the northern edge of this battle map. Mel, it's your turn.
I'm getting as close as I can, so that's like a double move through the woods with slick rain and whatnot. I'm probably going to have to roll, right?
Yes, you will.
I'm going to go with acrobatics to try to keep my footing here.
Okay.
Is there disadvantage?
I didn't count it. I just had to make a normal acrobatics roll.
Okay, here goes.
Or athletics.
I've got a 15.
That is just good enough to not slip and lose half of your movement. So
Okay.
you do a double move successfully, dodging the whipping tree branches and the sliding ground underneath your feet.
All right. I'll see you folks in a turn.
Alder, you are stealthily hidden. You picked up on Marduk's triple whistle that he thinks there might be multiple individuals.
I continue moving closer to the magic that's being cast down there,
Okay.
along the front of the house that I was hiding on the side of, but then heading off towards the tree again to remain as hidden as I can be.
Okay.
So there's trees right past the house. I'm hiding
And
there.
since-
I'm moving
yeah.
stealthily, and I'm trying to see. I don't see any opponents, but I do see something weird going on.
Those walls are only 2 or 3 feet high, that crumpled foundation that you're moving south towards. You see the red light a little more clearly from where you're at. You can make a perception check, please.
I rolled a 9.
What you can see with a 9 is forms in the mist, much like I described to Marduk last turn. There's something more substantial in the mists that are gathered about this fallen house. You're sure it's at least 2.
Okay, seeing those 2 individuals, I reach down to my right, untie the scarf from my rapier, tie it around my forehead as I do, as I'm getting ready for battle, and I look over at Marduk.
Okay. Marduk, you can easily see Alder and the movement that he made to ready his weapon. It's a telltale sign when he places the bandana upon his head that battle is nigh.
Marduk smiles. He says a prayer to Amira, and he grabs his spear and reignites the light. I'm going to hold and pay attention to Alder's direction, but I would hold my action until we gather the other fists together.
Okay.
Because now we have a target, and now we just have to get our knights in a row.
You realize as you have attuned yourself to your staff / spear that you can make it be dim light in a 30-foot radius, or it can be bright light in a 30-foot radius. You've been able to fine-tune that if you want. So in this instance, are you doing dim or are you doing bright?
I will do dim for now, and then I will present it when we challenge whoever is performing this ritual.
That takes us to Grodor.
Grodor's moving between these 2 buildings and be ready for whatever happens. In the next movement, I'm going to be just ready to go.
You're going to move between the 2 buildings.
Yeah.
Okay. That takes us to Gabrielle and her right-hand man, Donald.
I'm going to pull up right next to Marduk.
From this distance, you can't see any entities, but you can definitely see the red glow. Seemingly magical in nature because it's a steady red glow.
Okay. I make a regular range movement to be adjacent to Marduk, and then I observe from a distance because I want to keep Donald safe and because I can't get there without sprinting, and I think this is the point where we're trying to be a little sneaky about it. And then I'll make a perception check to see
Go ahead.
what I can see other than...
Yeah, and Donald follows suit. He crouches down, moves at regular speed and in a crouch, and lines himself up behind Marduk.
12. You can see that it's glowing.
Exactly. You can see that it's glowing.
I say magic, and I point to it for the help of Donald, who may or
Yes,
may
he
not.
nods earnestly, and you can see there's excitement in his eyes. He's got his hand on his sword. He is definitely embracing this moment and is excited for what's going to happen next. That takes us to Mel.
I catch up.
Sprinting?
Yep. This is the last turn. Here goes.
Yes, last turn to double move.
Run, Mel, run.
Oh, shit. Alright. it's going to be another turn. I rolled an 8 of trying to catch up to folk. This will be slowing me down.
Unfortunately, that causes you to move a single movement as opposed to a double move as you slip, slide, and have difficulties. Your roll wasn't bad enough to really cause you to twisted ankle or not move at all, but it did hinder your movement when you were trying to do the dash. That takes us back to Alder. We're not yet in initiative round. I'm still going just each person getting a turn because we're not in combat, and we don't know if we're going to be in combat, but we're certainly going to find out.
Okay, I attempt to move even closer to get a better view and warn others I am definitely staying in stealth mode.
At this point, you need to make a stealth check, please, with advantage.
I rolled a 16.
Right? And then I need a perception check, please. No disadvantage.
I rolled a 19 this time.
So what you see, they're standing in the foundation of a larger building, but what you're able to see, what looks to be red glowing runes on the ground through a couple of gaps in the wall that you're peering through. And within those runes, you see the form of Owen standing inside the runes with something in his hands, a book or a box. It's hard to tell. Towering over him, you see what can only be described as maybe about 7 foot tall, hunched over with this white matted fur. It looks to be a humanoid shape. So it's tall, it's bipedal, it has a goat-like head, and they seem to be having some sort of conversation, and you just got close enough to start being able to pick up words through the muffled nature of the rainstorm. You're able to pick up because they're actually shouting, and we'll describe what that is when we pick up next week. Well, that's it for this evening's session. Thank you all for joining us. We truly appreciate you spending time with us as the story unfolds and we find out what is the matter in the tiny village of Copshire. Also, thank you to the players tonight for participating and putting up with just terrible weather and disadvantage throughout the night, so apologies for that. Tried to throw a few advantages in there to make up for it, but I thought everyone did a great job of playing their characters and being torn between staying at the barn and moving into the woods to see what the matter was. So thanks again for that. And we'll join you again next week for our next episode.
Thank you for listening to Knights of the Night Actual Play Podcast. If you'd like to send us a question, comment, or feedback, you can reach us in a number of ways, including Twitter at KOTN_podcast or by emailing us at feedback@KOTNpodcast.com. And don't forget the iTunes reviews. We also have a Facebook page which can be found at facebook.com/KOTN.podcast. While on Facebook, you can join like-minded folks at our fan page at facebook.com/groups/KOTN-fan. And lastly, there's our blog at KOTNpodcast.com, where there's an Amazon link on the right-hand side. For those of you who'd like a more steady way to help us pay the bills, or if you live outside the U.S., you can help by donating to our Patreon page at patreon.com/KOTN. And please remember to join us next week for more mystery and adventure.
You there, Alder?
Yeah, sorry. My vision is mostly back. Perception. Yeah, I rolled a 9.
That was persuasion, not perception.
Okay, my sight is not completely back. I rolled a natural 20. Or 22.
Unfortunately,
your character, however, can see, so roll with that.
Yeah, my character can see better than I can. Yeah.
You mean distribute them?
What's it called? It's not a quiver, is it?
We want to distribute these?
Quarrel?
Yeah, I don't know what holds bolts.
Quarrel of bolts? I don't really know.
I think a quarrel is the missile, but
You're right.
I think it is a quiver.
All right, quiver it is.
well, Dad just added it, so probably.
I'll add it if we didn't. No, we did. We did. I think that was a suggestion of Brother Byron, so yes.
Yeah, I thought it was too. I am going to call a quick break there because Marduk is stepping away for a second and I want him around when we continue. So we'll wait for him to get back.
Anybody want to take a quick bio break?
Might as well do it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be right back.
For the record, my vision is back and just mild nausea. That's how short those things are. I'll be right back.
God, all of a sudden I'm all stuffed up. Oh, man.
I'm sorry, I passed on the migraine. It's yours now.
You rub your face in a cat or something?
No, I'm still fighting off whatever was bugging me this week, and it's just probably time for my pills and ministrations and salves and ointments and
Unguents
and all manners of snake oil and such matters.
Is it springtime allergy season?
Yeah, well, I'm convinced I have some kind of chronic sinus infection, but I haven't been able to get into the doctors for this past year or two, verify my suspicions, but every time the weather changes, I get a really nasty headache, only in the front part of my head, so it's like a superpower. It's like, oh, I get a nasty headache 12 hours before the weather changes, and just being old in Ohio, that's all.
Yep. Yourself, Mel, and
okay.
your dad, and Alder.
And Melody's dad, Alder.
Mm-hmm.
Twist.
Who saw it coming? No one.
Very complex. Time travel.
Mm-hmm.
I have the sufficient amount of foolishness.
Perfect amount of foolishness. So I think you should go.
And you're an NPC. Okay, hold up.
No,
Let
I'm
me...
not.
No, you're not. I didn't mean that. Don't take it personally.
She's all hurt.
Run into a tree, Mel.
Watch out for that. Scott? Oh,
No, he's muted.
probably on
Sorry, I
purpose,
was
though.
clarifying whether our dog Teddy had eaten food or not. Didn't want to be speaking over everyone. So go ahead. Mel, you rolled an 8 on your acrobatics. Should I have just had you guys chase in real time? Just been like, you run through the woods and you find a clearing and I was trying to make it intriguing. Who was it? Who are you chasing? Who are you following? Is it decoy? I was trying to add drama, but it dragged on for like almost 45 minutes or so, maybe an hour. And I'm wondering if I just shouldn't have had you guys say you're behind the person moving and just did it in more of a descriptive manner as opposed to a turn-by-turn manner. Looking for some feedback on if there was anything even remotely interesting about that or whether it was kind of dull.
You want to give the official ending?
Sure, I can do that too.
I would think that if the purpose...
It could have been, should it have been done different?
Well, if the purpose was to get us to the clearing and you see the buildings and get to the fight, I would imagine the chase would have been more of a preamble and like a quick setup.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking now.
To get us there. But I thought there was significance to who it was, thinking it's Merrick or thinking it's whatever, or maybe it's someone else, and
Morgan or
instead,
Owen.
then I felt that split the party because, well, we were supposed to be watching the barn, but then it became, okay, well, no, we need to be over here, and then you had yourself a chore of trying to entice and lure the other players, and that's my 2 cents for what it's worth.
Yeah,
I mean,
I appreciate it. Not
that's bad, but if the goal was to lure us to get us to the clearing, then in that case, I would say do what you could to make that expedient because that's not really. It's significant in that it gets us to the clearing, but not significant to spend the night trying to chase a person through the woods.
Right.
I think
go ahead.
If you wanted to make a thing of there being different possibilities, you also might have made some payoff to those other possibilities. Like, obviously you couldn't have made everyone we thought might have been a murderer, but perhaps there's just some distraction off in the woods that really is a distraction. A will-o'-the-wisp that just does that, because that's what they do, and we were so concerned about Faye.
Right.
and then
I
something
thought about the
that
Will
does
before tonight
attack
started. Yeah.
while Melody and Brother Byron are discussing whether it's a good idea to hold back, and then we could have capitalized on everyone being split up. But I also don't disagree. We made a point of there being multiple possibilities, so it was a good idea to dive into that, but also...
Yeah, I wanted there to be a couple of red
it.
herrings, right? There had to be a couple of red herrings of who, and I'm not saying that it all is just Owen. I mean, there might be more to the story than just the fact that Owen's in the woods right now. Why is he in the woods right now, etc. But I wanted to have some red herrings out there. I wanted you to think chastity. And so the exemplar guy could have been a possibility because they weren't being very chaste or chaste. Is it chaste or chaste?
I think they're both
Proper?
I've always heard it chaste.
Chaste. So they weren't being chaste, so it could be possible for that. I wanted...
Could be Merrick.
Yeah, I wanted that Merrick to definitely be one. I wanted Morgan to certainly be a red herring, that her illicit affair with Galvin Strom, the young farmhand, goat herder. So I wanted to have some different challenges in there for you. So I wanted it to be a very curious thing of who it was. So hopefully with Tom's editing, it won't be nearly as tedious as it felt for me as a DM. I don't know how it felt as a player, but it sounds like from Mike's perspective, it could have been more expedient and could have been handled a little quicker. I was worried that some of you would just follow into the woods if I just did narration, that some of you would follow into the woods and some of you would stay behind. And then I'd have a split party on my hands. I didn't really want that.
Yeah.
So,
there was a meta factor here that kind of, the fact that we were so close to the edge of the map was a weird, I tried not to say anything, but I felt like, well, either we're moving on to a scenario map where we get close in, or I'm going to fall off the page. So I try not to say anything about that, but that was kind of a clue. Right. I felt that we were going somewhere. That's why I kind of let that lead me a little bit.
Right,
so
which is okay. It's okay to meta a little bit, and it happens. When it comes to that map, if you're on the top right-hand side where we were, that forest wasn't even there. I found the map online. I had to place the forest there through the wonderful contrivances of the clone tool and Adobe Photoshop, and created that little forest up there to hint at a larger wood.
This is a tiny note, and this is not offered as criticism, but just
I take criticism well.
Observation. That just for convenience sake, if we are looking at maps for whatever reason, the top should always be north. Just
good Lord, yes.
Just to eliminate.
It's so confusing. Yes,
right.
I want to kill myself. The map.
We're not rotating the map just once.
The map was created with the north being upright.
Gotcha.
So facing towards the top, like it should be. That's how the map was created. I originally was going to place where I placed Copshire on the big map of the world made sense to have it be turned to the side. So I turned that ledger to the side to make it make sense with the big map.
Yep.
When I should have just said it was a quirk of, in the big map, really, roads can twist and turn. You're not representing every turn. So it could have easily been represented in the big map without me going through all the trouble and then confusing the listeners on top of that. So I really wanted to beat myself up tonight over a couple of contrivances that didn't need to be there. I probably could have had you guys walk into the woods to follow the light.
It had me confused because for a second I'm like, okay, is there something significant about the directions? Or I wasn't sure if it was going to come into play for the ritual or whatever. But then I'm like, oh no, he's just adjusting maps. So just as one less little thing not to worry about is that the top of the map is always
north. Yeah, I take the criticism or the compliment or the suggestion very well.
Even mentally, you're saying we went up the top of the map, which meant we went north, and now you're describing us going south. So I'm like, back towards the farm? Wait.
What, are we doubling back? It's all very confusing. I wish I could redo this episode. I wish I could have a gimme when it comes to DMing.
The only thing about chasing through the forest and rolling and stuff is we've been playing a lot of games lately that are Blades in the Dark, and that is even built on the Powered by the Apocalypse, which is when you roll for something and you miss, something happens that's bad.
Right.
So you're either rolling for something good to happen or failing and something bad's happening. And there were multiple cases here where we're rolling and we're missing and it doesn't matter. It does matter. It does matter in the sense that we didn't know what it was, and then therefore we didn't know whether to tell the rest of the group that, yes, we are chasing someone that we should. So D&D is definitely different than other games that we have been playing recently.
I figured it was hard to follow the small little candlelight through a storm and mist and fog and rain. So I was just trying to give perception checks to add veracity to the fact that you weren't just following behind him. I think he knew where he was going and you didn't know where you were going. Mm-hmm. So I thought that there should be some distance between you as well. But anyways, I think in retrospect, I probably would have just described it and went straight to the next phase of the story, which is interacting with Owen and his guest. If I could do that one again, because as I was playing it out in my head, I'm like, there's just too many roles and there's not enough action for the roles occurring. There's not enough payoff for the roles.
Yeah.
So I was kind of at the end just trying to hurry it along to get to where it was. And it should never be that way if you plan it out correctly. So I learned a good lesson tonight and hopefully learn from that in the future to not do that again.
A middle ground between every role is everything versus D&D's sometimes you just don't get extra details is Let It Ride. Marduk rolled survival at least twice to try to track this thing down. And if you wanted to expedite it, the first one could have led to a print of tracks that just went there.
Yeah, you could just say like,
again.
Right.
Because the kid even stayed on the trail. So why roll again?
Right. You say, well, you got a good trail, so that leads you all the way through the woods.
Right. Yeah, it was a good learning experience tonight for me. Or
if you're running through the woods, like when she was running through the woods to get through the woods, you could just say, just make one roll. We'll see if you get through quick or if you're slowed, and then just been done with one roll for the whole thing instead of 3 movements.
Right. I appreciate the feedback, guys.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't the most exciting of nights, and it should have resulted in combat tonight. But
I mean, we could have gotten the one I kind of fucked up. Sorry about that.
No, it wasn't your fault.
We would have gotten at least some of this planning done, and then maybe gotten to something. But it's whatever. My bad.
Well, I can say for certain that unless I perish in the next 7 days, there will be combat next week.
Oh, I've heard that before.
Yeah, we've heard that.
If you're going to come back and say, I got a really good idea for a flashback.
Unless you think you can just,
Unless we could talk our way through it.
Yeah, because Infernal Goatmen are known to be pretty understanding and very understanding.
I've met some very nice goatmen.
Loquacious.
He's talking to Lowen. He could talk to us, too.
Right. You never know. Except Owen's the one inside the circle. What does that mean?
All right, guys, I'm going to bed.
All right, Jim.
All right, Jim.
All right, see you guys next time.
All right, guys.
You take it off?
You on, Mike?
Yeah, I'm going to take off. I got to
All right, have a good night.
All right.
Better.
What happens if I hit this? There you go. That stopped it. Can't share a screen that doesn't exist.
Yeah, I'd try the escape button next time.
Other possible titles for this episode available for voting on our Facebook fan page were Everyone That's Hiding Needs to Hide Again. I Say It in a Loud Whisper. Please tell me they aren't hooves. We do a secret handshake. We're rolling hot tonight. And run, Mel, run.